What they won't tell you, we will. Come and Take It News.
Welcome to the Come and Take It News podcast. I'm your host, Clint Milby. Recently featured on Fox News, Kitty Demure is an unwoke homosexual drag queen who thinks outside of the LGBTQ mindset. He questions the current popularity and use of drag to teach children inclusion and tolerance. Thank you for joining us, Kitty.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Kitty, let's talk a little bit about recently, and you have become extremely outspoken in regards to drag shows for kids. I don't know how long it's been since I saw that initial video that you made, but it seems like it's been several months. What prompted you to become outspoken, and now you are also a member of Gays Against Groomers, right?
Correct. It really started 3 years ago. I made a video 3 years ago that made its rounds. Once I realized what Drag Queen Storybook Hour was. And so, like I said, I made a video that went around. Then it kind of, as viral videos do, they kind of go away. And then there was a resurgence of it, I would say about a year ago, when more people got acquainted with the whole idea of drag. We started seeing kids at Pride. We started seeing kids, involved in drag and inappropriate drag being performed in front of kids. And I think that video then started going around again.
I think the first time that I saw anything about Drag Queen Story Hour, they were having it at the West Hollywood Library, and I was down there, and I saw it I think I was down there for a film screening, and I saw an advertisement for it, and I thought, that's peculiar. I don't put the connection together and I've known a lot of drag queens over the years, but I've never known any that just their life goals were to perform in front of children. And there was a lot of stuff going on. The pandemic happened there, shortly thereafter. So I didn't, really think about it again until it seems to have become like a global movement post-pandemic. Have you noticed that as well?
Yes. And it's funny, I never even thought about the way you would just said it. It's become a global phenomenon. And what a coincidence. And it just happens to, go everywhere all over the planet. I think it's deliberate. I think drag is being used as a gateway to trans for children. It's an easy leap. More drag queens are coming out as trans. They never did before. Now all of a sudden they're saying they're trans. But same as you, I saw, them doing drag for kids, and I thought, well, that's odd. I had never in all of my years watching drag, participating in it, and producing it, ever considered the inclusion of children, because it has always been adult in nature, and it's always been naughty. It's always, had elements of, sometimes it's not dirty, sometimes it is. A lot of times it is. It's sexual, it's flirtatious. And so I wondered, why would adults want to include children in this behavior?
In should say, when we talk about global, it's absent in the Muslim countries.
Right, yeah.
But it seems to be in all of the English-speaking Western civilizations, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, US, obviously, and there seemed to be a rollout of it once the pandemic kind of started to subside. And some of the most outrageous ones I saw were out of the UK, where they were actually wearing phalluses. The drag queens were wearing strap-ons and stuff like that.
I started seeing that at Pride, which is what made me stop going. Inappropriate things, and then seeing children there. And I saw that 10 years ago. And why do you want to involve children in this? But yeah, I think it's a whole rollout of, like you said, the Western countries. The thing is, if you get a child trans before the age, before puberty, you have a patient for life. And it has, the pharmaceuticals will have a customer for the rest of their life. They're always on some sort of antibiotic, anti-rejection stuff, hormone blockers, things like that. So even if you detransition, you're still on medication for the rest of your life. And I just think that there's too much of a coincidence there to not be considered.
Now, you know what's interesting when you were talking about that most drag queens weren't necessarily trans. Do you remember? I think it may have been 3 years ago now that RuPaul said that trans girls couldn't participate on RuPaul's Drag Race, or that they weren't actual drag queens.
Right, until he had to take it back.
Right,
And
he walked it back almost immediately, but that seemed to be the opinion. Was that drag was an art form where men transition, for a nighttime, for performance using makeup and clothing, to portray the appearance of a woman. It wasn't an actual woman.
that has always been the definition of drag since I could remember. And it wasn't until what, 5, 7 years ago, all of a sudden, somebody comes on RuPaul's Drag Race as trans, but it seemed more of a tragedy than as some, like they were ashamed of it. And then it kind of morphed into, now, well, it's a good thing. And I've even seen the last winner of All Stars on RuPaul's Drag Race is a trans woman. Another winner was a trans woman. And it's like, that has become the new drag. So instead of the man artistically putting together makeup and a look and a number, now you go get surgery and get your lips blown up and get hormones, and that's become the new drag. I honestly believe the future drag queens will all be trans women.
And it's funny, I was got into a back and forth. There was some drag story for kids in Dearborn, Michigan, I think is where it was, and they were arguing that, well, the majority of the performers were actually women and female little girls, that so it wasn't like men dressing up for as women. And it was just like, I was like, so what does drag mean anymore? It's like, I don't, I mean, it seems to be losing its substance, becoming like something else.
I'll tell you something interesting. They have been trying to bring in like biological women into drag and calling them faux queens or bio queens. The thing is, I don't know if it was last season or the season before, RuPaul's Drag Race had a supposed heterosexual man come in as a contestant. And there was so much controversy around that a heterosexual man would do this. And it wasn't from the straight community, it was from the gay community. They didn't like it. But yet they'll consider a heterosexual woman a drag queen, not a heterosexual man. I don't know where that disconnect is. But now they consider basically anybody who puts on some sort of hyper feminine appearance and wears it like a costume and gets on a stage and lip syncs, you're all of a sudden a drag queen. It's to me, that now fits more into the title of performance art. If anybody can get on stage, put on a costume, do a number, shock the audience, make the audience horny, whatever. Now it's no longer drag, because drag is specifically a man who lives as a man, who dresses as a woman, who does a number, and gets off the stage. That's just all it is. They've blown it up into something completely different.
When you talk about like the inappropriateness for a so-called family-friendly audience, the one thing that what I've always seen, there's like two different things that go on in a drag show. Usually have one queen that is a MC that kind of tells like jokes of the sexual nature, makes fun of her, her chest or her makeup or everything like this. There's a lot of self-deprecating humor, but also mocks the crowd and stuff like that, and people in the crowd. Just almost a typical stand-up, but it's of a sexual bent. And they usually MC something like a underwear contest or a drag contest, a lip sync contest, essentially. And I always consider it to be something like a nighttime event, like almost like cabaret or something like that, where it was going to be off-color jokes. It was going to be risque, but it was going to be funny. But like you said, I never was like, what if we took these drag queens and took them and made them like a story time? Like, what would be the benefit to that? And what I'm curious about is like the people that are standing up for this, the straight liberals that are saying, well, you're just a homophobe and everything like that. It's just like, did we really need a vehicle like this in the gay community? Did we need this vehicle to normalize us, or make us part of mainstream society? We can marry, we can adopt, we're living side by side. And I thought we were doing okay. And that, again, I really want to dig deep into like, why are they doing this?
I personally think that because we've come so far as just normal gay people. Okay. Oh, you can, marry your significant other could be in the hospital. You can, do everything that conventional, normal, average, married men and women can do. Well, we've jumped over that hurdle. So then they usher in all of the alphabet. They throw it in between, after the LGB, then they add the TQIA plus meaning infinity. And it's like, it's a constant, you go down the alphabet and then, a new letter is victimized. You no longer, the L, G, and the B are the no longer victimized people. And so now that they have the rest of it, I just think it's just business. That's all it is. It went from a movement to a business.
Well, and that's interesting that you bring that up, because one of the things about Pride for the last several years that many people have complained about, I know that, that Pride years ago, and I guess I'm dating myself here, but, it was called an arts festival, because you would have all of these artisans essentially would sell t-shirts and jewelry and all this type of thing. And, the last couple of years that I've gone just here in West Hollywood, it's been like, it's all corporate. Mm-hmm. Everything, all the floats are corporate. All the booths are corporate entities. Like, I don't even know like why Netflix needs to have a booth at Pride, but they do. And there's no space. And because they're selling these booths out, there's no space for any individual like artisans and folks like that from the community. It's just taken up, it seems like, by Fortune 500 companies and medical providers.
Well, yeah, it's just become an event where people can go and advertise their wares. And I'm sure they're paying good money to the city for those spaces. And I don't know if any kind of gay organization gets it, what the Trevor Project, anything like that. I don't know if they get any donations, but yeah, it's basically turned into a place where people go, show their body. I mean, I've even seen porn being filmed there, like in alleyways and stuff. And I've been there a couple of times in Long Beach, saw transsexual, male to female, with their breasts exposed, wearing strap-on dildos, assless chaps, with people wearing masks and bondage wear, and then there's children walking right along next to them. And that's when I realized I'm never coming to this again, because why do I want to involve my sex life with children? Because that's really all it boils down to. This is all just about sex. And and it's like corporate sponsorship, it's no longer people, community anymore. It's commercial.
Well, and that's the thing. So it's, it's not, I think the proper term is astroturf. It's not a grassroots movement anymore. It's something that is being fabricated. And, one of the things that I wanted to go back to was like, and maybe I just don't have this exposure. I think some of this was part of maybe came out of the ballrooms, but this whole business of drag queens stripping down during their numbers and taking dollar bills like strippers do. Now, most drag queens I know, they work so hard to get into that frock and put all that makeup on. The last thing they're going to do is they're going to take that off, right? I mean, it was too much work to get in there. So I just don't ever recall seeing that where, people were putting, dollar bills and G-strings and stuff like that. And so when I started seeing, the drag for kids, and then they would have the children replicate that behavior, my idea is like, oh, they're training them to be sex workers. This has nothing to do with drag. This is like they're training them to get monetary gain from behaving sexual.
Well, that's where, Gays Against Groomers came out. We saw this behavior and we're like, what are they doing? What are they training or grooming these kids to do? And it's lowering the boundaries of sexual impropriety between adults and children. I don't understand why you want to create a thinner veil between the two. And yes, the dollar bills, the disrobing. And one thing I said in my interview with Vox is these people who are on the stage doing this, typically from my experience from producing and judging shows for years, are very amateurish performers. They are not polished, established, well-known drag queens. They're all like from a local dive bar. They're in a competition at a club, but these are people who want to be famous or want to make money, and they're probably honestly making $50 for that performance that they're doing, and tips. But clearly, I mean, by the costuming, the hair, the dancing, they're clearly, to me anyway, they're amateurs, and I don't know why they don't even put out the money to buy a well-known, big, polished drag queen.
Well, and I'm curious about that, and you're right. To me, like legit drag queens, it's all about being flawless. It's about like the performance. It's about the appearance of looking just flawless. And so, I mean, even back in the day, they used to, if they were going to perform Whitney Houston, they wanted to look exactly like Whitney Houston. It was almost to that level. I understand now that, things have like, become, everybody's doing like exaggerated styles and stuff like that. So some of that might be passé, but yeah, it doesn't even seem like drag is at the heart of this. It just seems like it's instructional. They're being used as props to teach kids how to be sex workers.
Well, and also one thing I've also noticed doing the judging and producing drag is a lot of performers, this is when it's not like they don't have a passion to do drag and perform. They have a passion to dress up like a slutty woman and be promiscuous. And that has been very clear to me for a couple of years now, that they're not even caring about the art of it. They want to do it just for the sake of it, just to be popular. Or another thing I've noticed, I think they are trying on trans. They are they dress kind of androgynous when they're a boy, and they come in and do drag, and every time they come in, they look more and more like a woman when they're dressed as a man. It's kind of strange. They have turned something that's an art form into a lifestyle, but I think it is, like I said, it's a transition to trans. That's what I think.
Recently, I went to the city of Burbank, where I live, had a gay pride thing that was targeted exclusively to kids and families. Like the flyer had a drag queen with a bunch of children like surrounding her, and one of the things, and when I was there, I decided to walk in, and just stream and just see like what was actually going on here. And I wasn't even there maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and I was surrounded by Antifa. And I know that they were Antifa because of the way that they behaved and the things that they said, and they surrounded me and everything like this, and it was violent. And I've seen this now, like in Texas, especially, where I've seen just recently in Katy, Texas, which is near Houston, at a church. They were doing a drag queen show for kids, and they had Antifa on the outside. And because Texas is open carry, they had AR-15s and stuff like that sitting out there. This coordination between Antifa and these shows, it feels artificial to me. It doesn't feel like they got with their local Antifa outlet and said, hey, we need some help with this. This feels like something that's has a bit more purpose to it.
Yeah, we've seen that in different events that I've gone to that were not necessarily drag events, but protesting things. And they are very organized. And the funny thing is, they won't say, even our government says, "Oh, it's Antifa's an idea. It's not an organization." It's not true. I've been plenty of places around the country that Antifa was there. They were just in Redlands, California last night. My friend was there speaking to a school board, and Antifa was there too. And they had been advertising for a while online, come and protest, the homophobes and the transphobes are coming out, which it was gays against groomers, not homophobes. But no, there is definitely some element that is coordinating Antifa and putting them exactly where they need to be at all times.
Talk to me a little bit about Gays Against Groomers. How did this start? Because it just seemed to like kind of come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it's like a phenomenon. Of course, getting shut down by all the social media outlets and stuff like that. And how did you become involved in it?
Well, the founder, her name is Jamie. She also founded another one. It was like a conservative gay thing, and then as soon as the more drag and storybook hour and things like that started becoming more in our faces, she created Gays Against Groomers, and then she went and basically recruited all of like the gay social media influencers that have some sort of following. So she went and basically recruited us all to be part of this group, and now we all make content, and some of us will actually go to events and represent Gays Against Groomers and give out literature and speak to people. I had the opportunity to do that last weekend. But it is something that people are really paying attention to. Heterosexual parents are very grateful for it. They'll call on us to join like a school meeting, city council meeting, because they are always shut down as homophobes and transphobes. When you have a gay organization showing up and saying, no, this is what we believe. And, it's hard to call gay people, homophobes. So that's kind of where Gays Against Groomers, that's kind of our role in all this.
But it's funny though, because that's exactly what they're saying now, and I mean, I've been called, self-hating gay and all of this, and it's just like, no, that has nothing to do with it. It's just like, but from somebody that has a few years, I can tell you that one of the biggest things that we fought for years was that gay people were pedophiles, that we all were. And I almost feel like, and maybe it's PTSD or something like that, but I almost feel like they're setting us up to take the fall on something.
I do too. That's why I think we're being used. And I think the community is just so grateful to be used and be so prevalent in our culture and to be on everybody's mind and be on every TV show. I think the community looks at that as acceptance, but I think we're being used as tools to usher in the thing with children and stuff. And it's funny because everything that we seem to be going through now, I grew up in the 80s, and the fashion was very androgynous, and
Boy George,
that was my idol. Boy George was my idol. Colored hair, piercings, and all that shit was out. And they act like it's something really groundbreaking and new right now, and it's like, no, it's not. That's what I think is so strange, is this whole they're so into this aesthetic and they think it's so important, and it's just a fashion. And I resent that our community, basically, I've been calling it for a while now, a dumping ground for misfits, because it's like, so if you're not a heterosexual cisgendered person, then all of a sudden you're under the LGBT umbrella. And I resent that. It's like, no, you don't get to like lump all of these people together, create this odd community, and demand that I'm a part of it. I have nothing in common with a furry who's asexual and who's fluid. And why is that thrown under the same umbrella that I'm under? I don't know. And it's like, who approves all this? And why is everybody just going along with it?
I don't know, and I've tried to think about it myself, and I saw like there was some girl popped up on social media, and she's married, she's white woman that's married with a kid, and she says that she's part of the LGBTQ plus, and I'm just like, what? Where? I was like, you present straight, you look straight, you are straight, you're not trans, you're a biological woman. It's like, did you ever get your ass kicked on the playground because you were, obviously gay? I mean, did you? Face slurs and were you kicked out of your house, at 16 because you couldn't hide who you were anymore? It's like, where I'm not saying that everybody has to go through that rite of passage, but, for a lot of people, this wasn't a choice. It was like we were put into this position because of who we were, and now it seems like it's just a catch-all club that anybody that wants to be can be, and it's just like when you consider not only that, but just like in the late 80s and the 90s, all of the people that died of AIDS, and to be living your life through the course of that time, where we were just like seeing people die and being scared of sex because of AIDS and what was happening. It's just like, not to say that you have to have stripes to be a part of all this, but kinda, a little bit,
Well,
and
at least don't act so oppressed when you are celebrated and glorified.
right.
I,
And I mean, I guess this is what we were striving for, was to have ability to be able to live our lives and be free. But now it's just has become the cool kids club or something like that. And but it's beyond that. It feels like that, it's not just some hangers on that are want to be down with the cool kids. Again, this feels a bit more purposeful. And again, it could be just something as simple as corporations trying to make money and medical companies trying to create lifelong customers. That could be a part of it. But that was the one thing I wanted to talk to you about, was also, like, I know I have friends that would never pass as straight ever. They played with Barbies. They carried purses as kids. They were constantly in their mom's makeup and stuff like this. And it makes me wonder if they had a overzealous teacher, or I don't even know if they have to be overzealous anymore, or a school counselor or a principal for that matter, that came to them and said, "You're unhappy because you're actually trans." And these people are perfectly happy, like, being in their own bodies. I just wonder what the effect this is going to be on these people, maybe even 5 to 10 years from now.
I think it's going to be pretty bad. And I'm really glad I grew up when I did, because I had all my friends were female up until, a certain age. I didn't necessarily play with girl stuff, but I played with girls. But one thing is, I really wanted to be a girl because I thought they were pretty. They had more fashion choices. Boys liked them, things like that. Okay. So I thought for the longest time, and I did not really bond with men until, honestly, my late 20s. And that's when I feel good in my skin. I feel comfortable around other men. One could have said I had dysphoria. One could have said I was depressed. One, could have said all of this stuff about me when I was a little boy. And I just, my idol was Wonder Woman, the Bionic Woman and stuff. And it's like, imagine if I had the option back then. Hey, you could turn into, a girl, and you could all these things could actually come true.
Not even the option, but pressure.
Yes, the pressure and the encouragement. It's weird. I see these parents, the way they are around these kids, and I'm like, you treat them like they're a pedigreed puppy that you couldn't wait to get, or a dog that you dox their ears and cut their tails off, and it's just it comes from the parents. It does. It comes from inside the house, in the schools, and the parents, and they could control all this, but they don't. And I don't know. I want to know what the parents are getting out of it. Probably social clout. Probably makes them feel good about themselves. I don't know.
It seems like, if I'm looking at you, and your post and the things that you say, and you're being embraced by many conservatives now, do you consider yourself politically conservative?
That see, I know, just being gay, being in an interracial relationship, being dressed up as a woman, all of these things, when one would say, this is a liberal person. And I think we're all a mix of everything. I mean, I believe adults should do whatever the hell they want to do, as long as they're not breaking the laws or hurting somebody, or involving a child. I think they should be responsible. But I also believe in things like smaller government, being able to have arms to protect yourself. I believe in so many things from both sides of politics that And I know most people do. I mean, nobody's 100% something. And I if I like a Republican candidate, I will vote for them. If I don't, I'll vote for a Democrat. And it wasn't until 2016 I started voting Republican. I'd always been a Democrat, but it wasn't until 2016 where I really got activated in politics and really paid attention to stuff. Maybe because I'm getting older, I don't know. But I tend to now identify with more of a Republican conservative side of things. And that's not to say that I'm fully accepted by them. I am still over here fighting them. I fight them more than I fight the left, to be honest with you. And I'll stand my ground. And they don't have to like me. None of them. Nobody has to like me. But if I believe in something, I'm going to fight for it, whether you like me or not.
So it sounds like you have more of like almost like a libertarian like point of view.
I think so. Yeah.
Just let me live my life. Let me have my constitutional rights. I kind of feel the same way, but it seems that there is such polarization that is taking place in the entire world right now. And so, that makes me want to ask a question, because I've seen that like some of the, and it's hard to tell because you don't know, a lot of these people that will never say this stuff to your face, like out on the street, but there are aspects of the right wing that think that, well, all gays are pedophiles and you have no place in our party and we're not the same and all this type of thing. How do you deal with that?
I don't. I mean, these are things that I probably would have cried about and stomped my feet about and just argued till, the end of time about. But, I don't know if you've heard of Officer Brandon Tatum. I've had it out with him before. But when they don't agree with me or like me, I might open the door to a small conversation, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time trying to convince them or anything, because their mind is made up. I'm going to go to hell. I'm a sinner, and their sin is less egregious than mine for whatever reason. And they feel the right to tell me. That's the problem I have with the extreme religious right. The ones on the left, they're the ones that think they own you and you're supposed to, be a part of their family and their community, and you're a traitor and you deserve to be canceled. That's like two extremes. And but I honestly I have had absolutely no in-person problem with conservatives or Republicans, and I have been in drag or have exposed myself to who, they know who I am. And I get nothing but love and respect. I mean, if I listen to everything that the left believes, I should be lynched. I should be, in a concentration camp. The conservatives, once they find me out, they're all going to kill me. I mean, I get this all the time. And like, you guys are really sick. You're really sick. You don't think there's any gay people on the right? You don't think there are parents over there who have kids that are in school who think they're trans? I mean, the Gays Against Groomers are actually becoming the counselors for the LGBTQ community on the right side, because the left will have nothing to do with them. So it's like we're still over there battling, doing things, helping, while the left is over here enjoying their kids' shows and, doing all of their stuff and being glorified.
When I think about trying to look at where we are from a historical perspective, prior to the Third Reich coming into power in Germany, there was a large burgeoning gay community in Berlin and parts of Germany where they were actually doing trans surgeries. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
Well, a lot of people think that they had skewed so far to the left that that made it possible for fascism to come into play. And that's the thing that concerns me. It's like, well, I mean, I've seen the Handmaid's Tale, and although right now it seems like the reverse is true, it feels like more like it's the liberals that will string you up on the wall if you don't say the right things. But I wonder if there's going to be a swing. The left has made it so possible to take away your civil rights, your First Amendment rights, almost essentially imprisoning you if you say the wrong things. That I wonder if the right, if it get, if and when they get back into power, because these things seem to swing back and forth, if they will be radical members that will want revenge and want to do the same thing. Have you thought about that?
It wouldn't surprise me, no, not at all. Yeah, no, I believe they definitely would go after, like, say, prominent, say, like, LGBT people who didn't support them, or spoke out against them or whatever, against their agenda. Yeah, no, I can totally see that. Just being part of the gay community and working in it for years, I know how vicious and toxic it is. I can imagine if there was a mass, if they all got together and had any kind of power, I can imagine what they would do.
Where do you see us going then, like moving forward? And are you seeing, like you participated in the event last weekend? How are people receiving you at these events? And I'm talking about like other gay people and stuff like that. And I'm sure you communicate with a lot of people online that, but I'm talking about maybe like the pros, like what kind of support are you receiving? You must be receiving something where people are saying, thank you for what you're doing.
Right. We get a lot of, the funny thing, we'll get a lot of lesbians, mom lesbians who are part of the community and who are thanking us for coming out and saying stuff. We get, a lot of like heterosexual Christian mothers, and it's typically a female dominated thing. They take the kids, they're the ones who thank us, they're the ones who get involved. But no, I get great support. Where I think it's going, I don't know. I think honestly, one of the goals is for the government to control reproduction. Like I kind of believe that. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's a tinfoil hat, I don't know, but I could see them doing that, wanting to control reproduction. I also believe that there is some kind of movement to erase gay men and gay women. Because if you can convince a little gay boy or a gay girl, which is what they're doing, that they are the opposite sex and then transition them, then we have no more homosexuals. Everybody's a trans or a cisgendered person. And I don't know. It's hard. It's hard for me to picture where I think it's going to go. But one thing I do know is I'm going to help push it back. I'm going to be part of that movement that pushes it back and just hold it off a little bit if we can, and make people think more about it.
Yeah, and to realize that this is, the situation is not that dire. I mean, one of the things that I feel like, where these kids are really being victimized is, when I think about the worst part of my life, as far as like just day-to-day horrors, it was during puberty. It sucked, there was nothing fun about it. I mean, I guess there were a few like moments that were cool, but for the most part, I was scared all the time, and worried and scared, and all this hair is shooting out all over the place, and I'm a walking erection and I don't know what to do about. It was weird, and girls, were in a worse boat because they were terrified of getting their periods, and they were terrified of not getting their periods, and we're all like measuring up like how we're developing and stuff like that, and it sucks if adults had to do that today. I mean, it would be a horror show. So I get it that no one wants to go through puberty, but I just feel like we must be able to convey to them that there's a whole nother life on the other side. So don't make any drastic changes to your biology, and it just seems very sinister to me. You're catching kids at a time when their life is like really up in upheaval, and exploiting that to sell them medical procedures that are irreversible in some cases.
And they're so vulnerable, still trying to figure out who they are, what they're going to be. And now we have to tell them to look between your legs. Is that really what you want? Now we're adding a whole nother layer of ideas. And the thing is, what how do you even have a conversation with a child about sexuality? And because all it does is it's just about sex. It's about what you do in the bedroom. Like, why are we having those conversations? Those were things that you decided. And the whole idea of gender, there was never a question. You just knew what you were. Like, who I want to know who's putting it in people's heads that they can switch genders. But I don't buy it one bit that they say they come out of the womb. I mean, there are some doctors saying that now. They know in the womb or right afterwards that they're in the wrong body. How? Like, how do you know when that's the only body you've ever been in? None of it makes sense.
No, it doesn't. And I mean, one of the other things is that I know for maybe 20 years now, they've been saying that there was a gay gene. The children were genetically inclined to be gay. And it kind of gave way to this slogan, "I was born this way." I don't think the science is clear on that, because my feeling is that if they could isolate a gay gene and they could see it in the womb, there were probably, and I mean, I'm just speaking out loud, like saying this, in reality, there'd probably be a lot more abortions because, straight people wouldn't want to have a gay kid.
Right. And actually the whole idea of the gay gene is gone. You think they would have isolated it, shown people, proved it, shown it in children, and but it's almost like an idea that they had, and then they let it go. And then, we're piled on with all these other, gender issues and sexuality issues, and not only, and then the things that we have to worry about that have nothing to do with homosexuality, like you had brought up the people who think that they're part of the alphabet, and they're not even a part of it. I knew a couple where one of them, the female, did not like to have sex with the male, so he said that they are part of the LGBTQ community because she's asexual. So
Yeah.
it's
No.
it's so much. It's so much.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. And it makes, I mean, yeah, that's easier than confronting the main issue. Maybe you and your husband don't belong together,
Right.
Maybe there's other things that you can actually do something about, other than just declaring yourself a minority, and saying that's the way it is.
You convince these people that don't have a whole lot going for them, that they are oppressed, and that there is this community that they can become a part of. Now all of a sudden you become a powerful voice. You put on your rainbow shirt, you get a sign, and you go out and you yell at people. It's like they find power now rather than just being a nobody. I mean, I really think that's a lot of what's going on in our community.
When you say that many of the people that are coming to you are lesbians, or these are lesbian parents, you mean?
Yep. They would be like a woman who had a heterosexual relationship, had a child, got divorced, and then got together with a woman. There's quite a bit of that.
One thing that I'm seeing a lot of, and it just seems like that there's, maybe it's because it's unusual, so I remember it, but there are many of the trans men that are still pursuing sexual relationships with men, and almost exclusively, and they go through this procedure, and they're very or procedures, and they're very excited about it and everything like that, and then they show up on Grindr, and then they are pursuing sexual relationships with men almost exclusively, and this goes into this whole idea of like girls that were, tomboys, or whatever, that they're being more targeted even than feminine boys in regards to that they need to do something about their sexuality.
That is, I believe, right now the biggest population of trans are female to male, and there are actually know a few like that who gone from female to male, and then they say they're gay men, and then they sleep with other men. and they use their vagina in sex. Um, I can't make sense of that.
It only thing that it just keeps going back, and I'm not being flippant about it at all. But I just recall when I was like in college watching like Jerry Springer or Sally Jesse or something like that, and they would always bring in, oh, this trans couple, they transitioned, they're male and female, they transitioned, now they're transitioning back again, and it was just like insanity, and the idea was is that, oh, they're just doing this to get on TV or something like that. Never really imagining that this will become kind of a reality, but it seems to be like where we're at right now. And the thing of it is that I think that I don't know if it's in the sales pitch or what it is, but it seems like for a lot of these women, they're being pitched that what they're doing to their bodies is completely reversible, and it's not at all.
No, I there's so many sad stories. I mean, most of the sad stories do come from people who do bottom surgeries, But even if like if you are taking hormones, puberty blockers, things like that, it's possible like you're 30 years old now and you go, you know what, this isn't for me anymore. And then you want to have a family, you can't have children now a lot of times, and because you become infertile, and then they have to get put on female hormones just to get a healthy amount of female hormones back into their body. And no, it's irreparable damage a lot of the times. Lots of infections, things like that really, really bad stories that the community suppress. They are suppressing and oppressing their own community from telling their truth and their experience, and because it makes them look bad.
And that's the thing about it. So I know I have one friend, and she's identifying as woman now, but in her early 20s had double mastectomy and went on to take injectable testosterone, and had to stop the testosterone because she said it felt like somebody was kicking her in her ovaries like every day. And then it turned into like ovarian cancer.
Wow.
But on top of it all, and I mean, this is just, as a guy, I guess that one of the first things that happened when she started with the testosterone is that she started losing her hair almost immediately, which, that's part of it's kind of a package deal, as a man,
welcome to manhood.
Yeah. And it's one that she didn't expect. And now is just like, I don't know what to do with myself. Is having trouble finding good psychological help to deal with this, to cope with this idea that it was a clinic that essentially ignored her previous psychological issues and social issues and just pushed her in this direction. And I don't think we have to wait like 10, 20 years to see some of the casualties of this. We're seeing it like in real time if you look.
Yeah, it's right there, and I think that's why they're suppressing it. They don't want people to know the ugly side of it. There is an ugly side. People are entitled to see that and to know about it. It's like a commercial on TV for medications. They tell you all the bad stuff real quick, so we need to know all the bad stuff, and let people then make up their mind.
And the only reason why they do that is because there's a loaded gun held to their head to make them do that. There's
Right.
laws in place. They wouldn't elect to tell you any of that stuff if they didn't have to. Same thing with warnings on cigarettes or anything like that. So I think because the laws are not set on any of this business, that it's just, they're just going to suppress as much as they possibly can. And they're doing it through social pressure, it seems to be.
I'm hoping we end up in a place like in some countries in Europe now have gone. They won't do gender affirming surgery on children anymore. And in some cases they were doing it a while ago. Like they pioneered some of this stuff, and now they're like, no, we've decided we're not doing this anymore. So hopefully the United States will catch up to that way of thinking, but we'll see. I'm not against adults transitioning. It's all about kids transitioning.
So I was watching the War Room this afternoon on InfoWars, and they were talking about this new now trans TikToker who was got to meet President Biden recently. Yes, who seemed to be kind of just this TikToker that was trying to find as many likes as possibly could. and hit a, I don't know, it just, the whole thing, you know, the discussion was, is that it feels almost like a troll, like somebody is like doing this to show how ridiculous all of this business is, because that's the way it seems. I mean, it's not a good sell, I don't think.
No, and you know, I've seen this person before on TikTok, and it seems like a troll. It seems like a mockery. I mean, I don't know where we get in a place in the United States where an obvious man could sit there and talk about tampons and pads to women and not have any use for them whatsoever. And all of it seems like a performance. None of it seems genuine. And this person in the past has tried to become famous doing different things.
Right.
So we are dealing with an attention whore who wants fame and attention, and now he's getting it. So he's going to continue with this character. But I see it as a mockery of women and as legitimate trans women too.
Well, so this is also one of the things I wanted to hit was my friend who's detransitioning, she has been screaming that this is just another case of the patriarchy trying to dismantle women, because the arguments that they used with her in the clinic were that you were never going to feel good enough until you become a man, you know, from the, you know, utilizing her own like particular issues that she was having. But that is the generalized message, is that being a woman is not good enough. You need to be a man if you want to be happy.
Yeah, if you want to achieve, if you want to feel good, if you want to feel powerful and strong. Yeah, it's I don't understand why, you know, it's so funny. The more they talk about gender roles and things, the more this whole trans issue pushes us further into that, because they act like to be a woman, you have to have long hair, makeup, a dress, and heels. If you're a man, your facial hair are bald and you have, you know, body hair. And it's like, when growing up, it was always, you wanted to break those norms and you wanted to be an individual and you wanted to be a person, your own person, and define your own life. And now people can't wait to be defined. They can't wait to be
Categorized.
Categorized, a stereotype. They can't wait for that. I don't understand the turning point in history, what created this, but we were supposed to get away from that women were to be one thing and men were to be another. And now you stay that way, but you can switch roles back and forth. And I don't get it.
People that are seeing this right now, they want to be a part of Gays Against Groomers. How loose or how tight is the organization as it stands right now?
It's, you know, I believe, you know, if you want to be like an influencer, they want you to have like a certain size of a platform. But, you know, we're always looking for people to go to events. One thing we need people on the ground with cameras and time to go to these events, to film them, whether it's a drag show, storybook hour, a city council, school board meeting, anything that has to do with the topic. But we have chapters in each state, and trying to even break it down into zones. Like I'm in the Inland Empire, so I would like be in, you know, the Inland Empire part of California. But yeah, so we're really setting up the state chapters and stuff. But if you really want to get involved, go to Gays Against Groomers on Instagram or Twitter. Contact Jamie, she's the president, and she'll let you know exactly what we would need. And
how about you? People want to find out more about you. What should they do?
I'm official Kitty Demure on Instagram, Kitty Demure on Facebook, YouTube. I am Kitty Demure at gmail.com. I'm pretty much on every social platform right now.
So before we go, I wanted to ask you about Haga the Sisti, because that's how I first became familiar with you. Uh-huh. And it took me a while to figure out, because you want to talk about what a little makeup can do. You know, it's just so wildly different, that persona. Talk a little bit about that persona, because really a lot of your conservative ideas were coming through in outrageous like comedy from that character.
Yeah, that's basically I on a whim decided during I think it was COVID or before COVID. Actually, it was before COVID. I'm going to try this. Everything's so crazy. Everybody, everything goes. No one questions anybody. People's insanities are reaffirmed and, whatever. And it's like, I'm going to try this character. So I did it. And people were like, what the F is this? And then there was a lot of people who like were very supportive of Hagatha. Like they couldn't wait to rush in and give me a hug for being so genuine and telling my truth and being vulnerable.
Hmm.
And and then of course the other ones that come in like make I it was mostly a live show that I do. And I do it once in a while now. I'm trying to breathe some new life into Hagatha. But it was amazing to me. And the audience, the way it grew. And so there were people who knew it was not real. They figured it out because they would hear the messaging through what I was saying, like the sarcasm about an event or whatever. And so then it became where people would just watch the show to watch people be fooled by me. And it it was crazy. I decided basically I would believe and say everything opposite of what I believe. And that over time is becoming very difficult to do when you really want to take a stand on things. So it started messing with me mentally. And so I kind of took a step back. But I have fun with Hagatha. Like lots of at some point she's more popular than Kitty is. And I had people sending me gifts from all over the world. It was
Wow.
a crazy time during COVID. That was when it really blew up. But yeah, Hagatha basically uses satire and comedy and basically the playbook of the left to talk about things, blow things out of proportion. I'm very dramatic, and it's I find fault in everything, and I'm a bigger victim than everybody. Um, and at some point it does. I do kind of tap into my teenage self, where you're called, the F word for gays, um, going down. That was my name at school. That's because I was hard to not be myself at school. They knew I was gay just by the way I acted. So I took some of that hurt, channeled it into this character. Um, but it's a lot of fun. And like I said, I was shocked how well it did. And now I'm in a place where I'm getting back into it, but trying to figure out what else to do with it.
Well, yeah, she's, you have to be incredibly vulnerable. You're showing your vulnerability, and putting it out there
Mhm.
in a way that is, done comedically, but still, this is coming from, and I think all comedy comes from a place of pain anyway. So,
Right.
yeah, I think it's genius. I just absolutely love it.
Well,
So,
thank you.
and people can find if they want to know what we're talking about. It's at Hagatha Sisti.
Hagatha Sisti on all social media platforms. Hagatha Sisti. It's a very you can Google it too. You'll either get me or a character from the Smurfs. And I didn't know that character was named Hagatha.
Well, they also have, I think, a fan group or fan page or something like that.
Yep, I have a couple of those.
Um, in regards to that, um, what are you being canceled? Are you being censored? And just a little bit about that before we go.
I've been kicked off of Facebook before. I'm kind of on a bootleg account to get that back. TikTok, they get rid of me all the time. All the time. You do anything on TikTok, they basically that's like the home for bully reporting. They get enough reports from a lot of their the community decide, well, we don't like them, we're going to get you kicked off, and they do. TikTok will just kick you off. As far as the community canceling me, I don't make money doing drag. um I in July I quit my job working at a nightclub in Southern California due to health reasons. It really wasn't anything else. But how can I put it? I'm in a position with the community to where the real famous drag queens won't say anything to me because I know a lot of them and have worked with a lot of them. And they know that I know things about them that they would not want revealed. And I honestly think it's that simple why they won't attack me. Um,
She knows where the bodies are buried.
well, you know, it's I don't know. I mean, I've worked in it for so long that I know drag queens who go on stage and they preach love and acceptance and tolerance. And then, you know, when Trump was president, all they did was rant and rave what a racist he was, but then go backstage and use the N-word. And, you know, it's how they are so willingly to show their true self to people backstage after showing this public face, is amazing to me. And these are very, very popular household name drag queens. So it's people, these fans and people in the community, they have a different impression of what these people are. These are people who are just trying to make a dollar, and you know everybody is, you know, but not everything that they preach from a stage is not necessarily what they believe.
Right. Well, I guess that's true. That's show business for you.
Yeah, it is definitely show business, but then they mix in the politics with it, and that's where the dishonesty comes in because they're not. How can I put it? They're not showing who they really are. I mean, you know, they like to make crack jokes backstage, racial stuff, things like that, things that they would completely demonize somebody over for doing it publicly.
We call them a bigot and say, you know,
Right.
yeah. So, I mean, you know, that's one thing that another thing that I thought about when they were doing drag for kids, it was like, there's a lot of behavior that is funny, you know. I think drag queens call it reading each other. You know, it has its roots kind of in the deprecation that drag queens or gay men receive just on the street, and they kind of hurled it at each other, tearing each other down for their makeup looks ratchet or their hair is bad or whatever.
Right.
And I didn't understand. It's like, why would you want to teach kids to that type of like humor? And I don't know how much of that goes on for the drag shows for kids, but it just seems to be like part of the deal.
Well, and even if it doesn't, even if they, okay, let's say they don't do it for kids, but it raises them up in a place where like it's acceptable. This is another thing. All of their material is found online, so anything that these people are doing in a clean act, all these kids do is they Google up their favorite drag queen, and there's very famous ones on television that you can Google them up and find pornography. And of course, and we know that you know, all you have to do is they'll say, "Are you 18 or over?" and you just say yes, you know, to get access to this stuff. So, you know, unless the parents are regulating the internet in the home, kids have free reign over the internet to do whatever they want. And a lot of these drag queens, on their way to becoming famous, have done porn, they've done pictures, they've, you know, done things that they no longer talk about. And but you know, you could look up your favorite drag queen and typically find a nude picture of them online, watch them have sex. And and I don't understand why parents would push their kids into a lifestyle or a job where 99.9% of the people in it are backstage doing inappropriate things, drugs, alcohol, some are prostitutes. It's just a seedy underbelly lifestyle. And I don't think a lot of them know it. They just see these pretty princess costumes and all of this stuff. But no, it is an industry, and it runs parallel to the sex industry and strippers and things like that. It's the nightlife. They do this in red light districts. You know, so I don't get it. It's not Disneyland. It's not Chuck E. Cheese. It's none of these innocent Barney childhood things. It's men dressing as women and acting provocatively and sexual and titillizing the audience. It's like when a drag queen crawls on the ground and people say, "Oh, there's no big deal." I go, "Well, that's part of the seduction. They're seducing the audience. It's and they know it. They know it, and they for some reason they just look the other way. And a lot of times it's so they're not homophobic or they don't want to not be supportive of the community."
It's at the end of the day, I think that's where we started this conversation, was just like, this is not, drag is, like I said, when I first heard a drag queen story, I was like, why would you want to do that? It doesn't make sense. So along those lines, I think one of the questions that's come up is like, don't ask the question about like, why would a kid want to see a drag show? Ask, why would a drag queen want to perform in front of a kid? With that in mind, have you talked to some of these performers and asked them like, what was in it for you? What were you trying to do?
No, and I honestly have never spoke. I came across a picture of someone I knew who was breeding to kids, and when I saw that picture, I knew immediately that they didn't vet these drag queens, because this guy was a prostitute after work. He was a drug addict. He was real ghetto. And I'm like, why would, so it must be he's just getting paid $50 or something, But I think if I had to put on my hat where I think everything is, wholesome and clean and pure, I think some drag queens are doing it because they feel that they are helping end the stigma that a lot of gay kids might want to make them feel comfortable in things. But not every gay kid, in fact, very few gay men even like drag. Just because you're gay doesn't mean you want to be a woman or dress up as one or even like it.
Or date one.
No, and a lot don't. Because why would a gay man date a drag queen? Why would you want to date a woman? Now, me, I'm the kind of guy, I've never had a problem, because once this is off, I look a lot like you, except I have no hair. And I wear camouflage clothes, I wear Vans, I'm just a guy. And I'm not more feminine than just, say, an obvious gay guy. Like, you don't look at me and know I'm gay. Probably when you start talking to me, you do.
Right.
And, me and my partner, we're not openly gay. We're not afraid of it. We won't hide it, but it's not something we introduce ourselves as, because it's really nobody's business. But I just resent the fact that that drag is being foisted upon these kids and boys who may like girl things, and they just kind of think this is what they have to do. Well, I'm gay, so I have to be a woman, or I have to dress up as a woman. And I think they're using drag for that when it's just nothing but performance.
I've heard one guy online that I pay attention to, Max Egan, and he was saying that he thinks that the agenda is to sterilize kids. It's not to change their gender as much as it is that this is, and again, we're talking, this is conspiracy land, but when you think about like why things happen, that's where your mind goes, is, it winds up being conspiracy because we don't have any evidence for it. But it would appear that seems to be the goal, is to sterilize people, because that ends up being what happens when they transition.
Well, yeah, I do. I believe, it goes back to what I think the government wants to control a population, birth, things like that. I mean, if most gay people aren't going to have children anyway, unless they're adopted. But the thing is, it's heterosexual people who make gay people, I don't know how they're going to get around that. But then again, if you can get that kid early and say, hey, maybe you're really a girl, let's put you on some drugs so you could live your true life, then, chances are that person isn't going to reproduce either. So whether it's through hormones, transitioning, the surgeries, vaccines, whatever, I do think that there is an effort to control population. Yes.
And at the end of the day, I think that's what people need to think about, and it's not a foreign concept to gay people, because we saw it with AIDS when no one was trying to help. And, consequently enough, who was behind the treatment on that was Dr. Fauci. That's the one thing that I've been really surprised that no gay people have like connected those dots. But there's pictures out there of gay men holding up signs, Dr. Fauci, you're killing us, because of AZT. I personally know somebody that died because of AZT.
Until it's spoken on RuPaul's Drag Race or until it is at a gay pride event, they don't care.
And that won't happen because the corporations are controlling all of that stuff. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, you totally saw that on RuPaul's Drag Race as soon as Nancy Pelosi and AOC went on it, and you're like, what? What are they here? I want to see men in wigs. I mean, I don't. That when that happened, I went, this is so obvious, and I just stopped watching.
Yeah, it just became, and I mean, I think that's everything that's on network television now is some form of state-sponsored propaganda. Maybe there's a few exceptions where they let art just take its course, but it seems like that there's messaging, sometimes overt, like with the drag show with RuPaul, and with the nighttime comedies. But
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Well, Miss Kitty Demure, thank you very much for your time. And again, give me that website one more time.
I'm kittydemure.com, or therealkittydemure.com. I'm all over social media. So Kitty Demure, Hogatha Sisti, it's everywhere.
And Gays Against Groomers is also all over the place too, right? Yes.
You can get their website, gaysagainstgroomers.com, or very active on Instagram.
What they won't tell you, we will. Come and take it news.